Hello and welcome to MDL Voices, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of One Team MDL. When you look at any successful business, scratch below the surface and what you'll find are really good people. And that's the aim of this podcast. We're going to look behind the scenes, see who makes this business tick and why it's become so successful. I'm delighted in episode 1 of this podcast to be joined by two very fine representatives of MDL, Andrew and Inger. Welcome. It's good to have you with us. Let's give you your full titles. Inger-Louise Molver, you're the Director of Strategic Partnerships here at MDL. And Andrew Blaquiere, you're the Executive Business Development Director. Good to have you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm a traditionalist. Let's start ladies first. And Inger, just reading a bit about your career history and where you've been brought up, where you're from. You spent much of your career around vessels, haven't you? So tell me where that passion has come from.
So I've spent around 20 years working specifically within offshore shipping on the commercial side of that. Originally, that would have come from my family. I was brought up in Peterhead, but I am half Norwegian.
That says it all.
Yes. So and I tend to have to explain when people hear my name and then they hear this accent coming out, then there tends to need to be an explanation there. So I'm half Norwegian. My father comes from the part of Norway that has a rich history in offshore shipping. Many of the ship owning companies and families come from that part of the country. My father sailed on offshore vessels his whole career. I grew up being on those vessels, spending time with them, knowing about them, very much part of my upbringing, and had a passion for that right up until it came time to, start working in the industry. So that's where that comes from.
And now working in the strategic partnership side of the business, it seems to me that you're certainly very well set up to do that.
Yeah, I think that my previous work roles, the companies that I've worked in previously, have given me a good foundation to look at where MDL can really move forward and look at the partnerships within vessel owners and other companies that can strategically align with where MDL wants to grow and where we can really make a difference to our customers in terms of the equipment and the services we provide. There really is a huge world of opportunity out there, not just within the Norwegian sector where or in Norway where I'm based, but globally. Shipping is a global market.
Now, Andrew, you're not from Peterhead, but that's okay. We'll let you off.
Thank you.
You hail from foreign fields, from a different background, shall we say, through the engineering route has brought you to this role, isn't it?
Correct. Yes, I'm originally from Texas, born and bred, and I worked in Houston for a long time. So I was working for various companies as a background in engineering for different firms. I got the privilege of going offshore, which I came to realize I don't like vessels very much, and I get seasick quite often. Yes. So working through Africa, working offshore in Brazil, working offshore in the Gulf, really drove my career at the beginning, and then I got into analysis and detailed engineering, and then I began to really enjoy commercials, and I realized I was quite good at talking to people, and so I eventually got into project management and sales and more commercial side. So, and then I joined MDL almost.
And how did that happen?
Persistence.
Had you heard about MDL?
I heard of MDL. I worked at another company that's one of our competitors globally. And so I was working for a different team. And then I decided to switch football strips and to come over to MDL. And I've really never looked back. So I did that about 8 years ago. And 3 years into that journey, I had a discussion with the CEO and suggested I could maybe help look at some global sales. And then about 4 months later, I ended up in Aberdeen. So I've been in Aberdeen for 5.5 years now and had various roles, and just super excited to be on the journey of MDL, and what it's meant to me is, changed my life, changed my career, and it's just a really exciting place to work.
And you've acclimatised to the northeast of Scotland.
I have got long johns on right now, actually, in the summer.
That diverse heritage that's within you and experience, how does that enable you to tackle the challenges of working on international contracts with different cultures in different parts of the world?
I've been in Norway for 20 years, where people are quite punctual and follow a fairly strict etiquette. And I think being in this global role, I haven't realised quite how indoctrinated I have become into the Scandinavian way of doing things. So that's been something in itself to adapt a little bit to, people not being as rigidly punctual as they tend to be in Scandinavia. Got to be a bit more relaxed about that. And you'd think I'd be better because I did grow up in Scotland, but I think that there are massive differences across the world in terms of culture, both in business culture and outside of work, and we have to be respectful of that. It's not about assuming that people will conform to what is normal for you, but it's being respectful about other cultures and understanding that you need to be flexible. That there are parts of the world where people might not turn up, or they're going to be an hour late, or the meeting will be cancelled at the last minute, or
so respect, tolerance,
yes,
patience.
And also, if you come to Norway, remember to be on time.
Yeah.
Don't be late. We don't like that.
Andrew, what are your experiences?
Well, I think I've been to 12 countries this year already, and it's June. So my experiences are 12 different things because everyone is different. At the end of the day, we're all humans and we're all striving for the same thing, which is looking after our family and, trying to create something. But there's definitely business culture that exists around the world when you travel. And I am just lucky enough to get to spread the message about MDL and interface with that culture. And I try to bring that back to the projects team, because it's important that when we deliver our projects, we understand what we're delivering into and that they might have a different way of working than we do. And it doesn't mean that it's one is good or bad, it's just that it's different. So one of the big things that we've done over the past few years is really focused on localizing our business. So we've hired more people in local markets for selling, and that's going to continue into the project execution side over the coming years, where we're going to have local project managers and local people to deliver the projects who can converse in the same language, who can understand the same business culture practices and what's normal. And as long as the DNA and the core of MDL is extended into those regions, then we'll be able to grow more locally. So it's definitely influenced my cultural beliefs. It's definitely influenced my commercial thought process, and it's definitely influenced me as a human.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and will continue to do so.
And will continue to do so. Yes.
Yeah. Let me come back to you then. What are the biggest changes that you say you would have seen in the vessel market over the last decade or so plus?
I would say the biggest change has been increased efficiency. And that's not just a tagline. That's something that has had real world impact on vessels, seafarers, and the bottom line of companies operating within the offshore sector. Things being done quicker, cheaper, with fewer people, over fewer days, have had real world impact on the sector and has really revolutionized things. And that really kicked off, I would say, 2014-15, when the oil price crash happened and companies needed to look at ways that they could do things differently. I personally think that's been one of the major differences. In terms of vessels themselves, it's interesting because a vessel today is essentially the same vessel that it was 20 years ago. There's been very little revolutionary technology, with the exception of autonomous and remote operations, of which there are a few companies that are quite active in that sector now, and those advancements are definitely interesting. But a boat today is more or less the same boat that you got 20 years ago. It's how it's operated and what you do with it.
So allow me to put it bluntly then, it's not always about buying a bigger boat.
No, definitely not. Although we're going into deeper water, we're going into more challenging conditions, and that often requires big structures, and that means bigger vessels. So bigger vessels are needed, and we have seen that trend, that larger vessels are being ordered. but it's not always the case that bigger is the solution.
What are some of the opportunities that come with deeper water and the bigger vessels?
It's the reserves. The low-hanging fruit has, to a large extent, been exploited both within oil and gas and also in fixed bottom wind. We need to go further afield if we want to explore that, and that means deeper water and, in some areas, more challenging environments, both politically and geologically.
Andrew, hearing that perspective there from Inger, do these trends resonate with what you're hearing from your client and customer base?
Definitely. I think that it's really fascinating because the market now is evolving in such a way that unlocking those barrels of oil has become very geopoliticized. And there's such a nationalism that's existing recently because of the world changing. So operators are really saying, okay, how do we now execute in different regions differently? And using local content, looking at local vessels, local markets. And operators aren't always looking to just offload the whole job to someone else anymore. They're wanting different solutions, different strategies, different innovative commercial models. And they're willing to take on a bit more risk because they know that they need to return profitability to their shareholders and they need to unlock those barrels. And so where we're fitting in and where we're helping customers think about things differently is, how do you take that model that Inger was talking about and say, well, it's okay, the boat might look the same after 20 years, but if you outfit it with MDL's equipment, we actually can make it be a different tool. We can make it be a different solution. We can help you bring oil to market cheaper, more effective. So I'm really enjoying those conversations right now with various customers in different small markets that maybe they just hadn't thought about it because they never heard of MDL. The thing that makes us really unique is that we're a small enough company to care a lot, but we're a big enough company to execute really huge projects. And so that is that's driven by the people. You know, we don't just give a client a piece of equipment on the back deck and just say, good luck. You know, we're completely invested in the story. We're completely invested in the outcome. We're completely invested in the success, because we don't want our name to be associated with something unsuccessful, and we never have. And so I think that's pulls through from strategic conversations, and that pulls through from initial conversations, and that pulls through all the way to the back deck and what we do on the job.
Well, let's explore that. I'm a vessel owner and I'm coming to MDL and I want greater efficiency from the vessel that I already own. And I come to MDL and say, tell me how to do it.
Well, I think it's really understanding what is your aspirations, what's your ambition, and where do you want to be in the market. And when we understand that from you, then we really open up so many avenues. If you want to be in the installation market and you want to do shallow water, we can outfit your vessel for that. If you want to do cable handling, we can outfit your vessel for that, for the repair market in wind. If you want to move into deeper water and you want to go high top tension and bigger umbilicals, flexibles to install, we can outfit you in that space. If you want to handle topsides and you want to be passing, first end connections up to fixed platforms, we can provide equipment that goes to that and be a part of that journey. So it's just so diverse in the spaces that we can play in the surf market, from shallow water to cable repair in the wind to deep water to greenfield installations. It really depends on what's the interest and how we look at that vessel and how we outfit it in such a way that you can really achieve the maximum day rate for the vessel. Because at the end of the day, that's your objective, is to get the maximum day rate. And putting MDL equipment on there unlocks that potential.
I think building on that, it's not always the case that a vessel owner will specifically know which area they want to go into, whether that is deep water, shallower water, what type of installation. But having those conversations, we can unlock that possibility. We can explain, what this equipment will enable this vessel to do. In many cases, a vessel owner is specifically that. They want to own and operate vessels. They don't necessarily want to become an installation contractor and take on the full responsibility and everything that comes with that in installing or taking on some of the scopes that the MDL equipment can enable that vessel to do. However, we can be part of that conversation to explain that, you know, you can be more than simply a vessel provider, and explain what markets that these tools can unlock for a vessel owner.
Can you think of any recent examples where that was the case?
Yeah.
A real success story?
Definitely.
And you can take the credit, you can take individual credit if you want. This is the platform for it.
No, it's a team game.
It's-
It's always a team game. So the
One team MDL.
decommissioning is a really interesting space. We have worked with a vessel partner who historically hadn't been doing any installation work. There's small stuff, steel flying lead, jumper installations. But they had a vessel that was on a contract with an operator for a long time, and the operator needed to decommission a very large part of a field in offshore Brazil. And so we partnered with that vessel operator, and we said, if you put our equipment on the back deck, you could transform your vessel into a decommissioning machine that can go and do all of that work in deep water. And we could pull risers off the seabed up to 100 tons. So they brought it to their client, and their client really liked the idea, although they were nervous because they never heard of anyone doing it before, and they're a very conservative customer. And so they said, right, let's keep exploring it. And so we just mobilized the vessel a few weeks ago in Brazil, and we're working offshore now. And everyone so far, fingers crossed, is extremely happy with the outcome, because the alternative was a vessel that would have cost them 2 times at least the value of what they already had in their hands. You know, the operator really unlocked huge savings because of that solution that MDL was able to create. So that's a live example that's happening right now that we're really proud of.
Yeah, I mean, you're in a senior role here with the company, Andrew. But do you still get that
Goosebumps.
rush when you do a good job for a customer like that?
Definitely. I get a rush after every meeting.
Yeah.
I get a rush after, hearing about the offshore guys' trips and how successful it was and where we can improve, because they see me at the airport and they're waiting for our bags and they say, hey, next time we need to do this. And so we bring it back and we implement lessons learned. And so, no, it's always a rush. It's always such a exciting thing to make a difference in the market.
And of course, you've moved from vessel brokerage, haven't you?
I think it's been really exciting for me since I started MDL to have these conversations with ship owners and explain to them how it's going to make a difference for them, what markets it's going to unlock for them. Decommissioning is a really interesting topic in set markets, especially in North Sea or the UK sector particularly. But there's plenty of installation work and new exploration and production campaigns that are being planned in other parts of the world, frontier areas. And what MDL can do is we can literally enable vessels, ship owners to go and take part in this. And having those conversations with companies that I've had dialogue with and known for many, many years has been really exciting to see, to talk about what it can mean for them going forward.
Quite an open question, really, to finish, and how you think your backgrounds and what's brought you to MDL and your experiences, how will that shape the outlook for the future, do you think, on what is essentially a very global industry now?
I think that what I really enjoy about customer engagement is the problem solving of how to execute a job. What we're doing at MDL and how we're really evolving as a company and how we're driving innovation in our products, and we're challenging our customers and we're keeping it real with telling them what we can do, what we can't do, and being really open and honest about that. I think it's all to play for the next decade.
Yeah.
And I think it's just so exciting to talk about offshore operations. And I just, people talk about landing on the moon is difficult. Well, going to 2,500 meter water depth and installing a fiber optic cable that's 25 millimeters wide, that's quite a land on the moon kind of thing.
I think what's exciting at the moment in the market is we're on the verge of many new vessels being delivered to the market. We saw very few subsea construction vessels and definitely anchor handler vessels being ordered over the last 10 to 15 years. They tend to come in waves, and now we're seeing another wave. There is some new technology, but there is definitely a whole world of opportunity for MDL and for the ship owners themselves to adopt technology like MDL has to offer, particularly on the innovation side, and see what what that can mean for those new vessels, both in oil and gas and in renewables, decommissioning. So I really see that the future holds exciting opportunities with specifically relating to the vessels, but also in terms of the jobs that these vessels will be doing with hopefully MDL equipment.
And it's interesting because I first met Andrew at an industry conference on the conference floor, and I know what a great advocate you are for MDL as a business and how passionate you are. So it's been great to capture some of that on camera again. And of course, MDL is well represented at industry events across the globe, and I'm sure you'll be attending many of those. So thank you very much for joining me. All that remains for me to do is to say thank you very much for listening, and do tune in to the next episode.